Welcome to the season 13 of the 15-ish minute coffee chat, a conversation providing tips for every entrepreneur and business owner.
Are you connecting with your audience? Mike Klemmer offers more than a great cup of coffee. His social campaigns and authenticity have grown his following and his business. Come see some of the fun ways that Mike has built brand loyalty and get ideas for how you can maybe use similar techniques to connect with your ideal client. I'm so excited. I think it's always so fun when you get to connect with a small business owner that like really just kind of like done so well in that social media arena, because it's hard to do. It's not easy. And I know it's got to be hard work. Like, I can't wait to ask Mike that question. Like, was it just overnight success? And he just walked in on his first post and that's what he did, you know? But again, yeah. And I'm like, thanks for saying this is the guy. We need to have him on.
Absolutely. I feel like he's kind of like, he's the one where you can look at and be like, he started somewhere and now look where he's at, right? Yeah. And for a small business owner, sometimes we just have to start somewhere and start to see what resonates and what works and what doesn't work, what we're comfortable with, what we're not comfortable with, you know, and get into that rhythm. But taking that first step can be really, really hard. So I'm going to throw out our call to action really quick. Yeah. So we want to know from all of you that are here watching this show, are you connecting effectively with your audience? Give us a thumbs up or give us a thumbs down. Like when you look at the marketing pieces that you're putting out there, are you saying to yourself, yes, I'm hitting it. I'm like right the target. That's 100 points for me. Or are you just kind of like, I don't know, maybe somebody saw it today and liked it. I got 4 likes on my post. Right?
Yeah. You know,
which is a reality for so many.
It is. I mean, like there's a hit or miss. Like we've had a show where we talked about sometimes it's not always just about the follower count, right? It's like what happens with the people that you do have and how does that drive business to your business. But I love when we can have a guest on that like has done so well, so we can like peek behind the curtains, be like, Mike, like tell us more. And I do want to add this, right? You all know that me and Anna are military spouses. Our husbands are both veterans. And I love that. This is also another plus for why we loved having Mike on the show. He too is a veteran. And so a lot of his content is military driven and it is so good. I shared it at dinner the other night when we went out with another military couple and we all had a good laugh at like, hey, Anna, we got to bring up this one made me laugh a little bit. Look, you guys know I'm also from Hawaii. And so when he had a Hawaiian character on, I laughed and I resonated with that, but I also resonated with the content. So Anna's going to bring up, we're going to bring up one of his most viewed. Okay. Yeah. Is there audio share on this, Anna? Because that's like the best.
Can you hear it?
Oh yeah. There we go. So when we were looking at his analytics, right, it showed that particular video had 1.2 million views. That just tells you it hits with people like in what way, right? And I think this is for me. I loved it because I'm from Hawaii. I loved that there was hey and Moana in it, right? And then as a military, like all the couples that I was with at dinner, they laughed and they were like, and then obviously then we all went through like all of his stuff and everybody resonated with different posts. And I think that's why we love having him on, because it's like he's connecting very effectively with his audience and it's not always about selling his coffee.
Yeah.
Right.
It is not always about, yes. And I think that's such a key, right? Like he's created a community and not just an audience, which is something that we've talked about in previous shows. So I think that we need to pull up his bio, tell everybody a little bit more about him and get him on here so he can like tell us everything about what he does.
Yeah. Anna, go ahead. Read his bio.
Okay, so Mike Klemmer is the founder of Ariel Resupply Coffee at the heart of the Blue Ridge Mountains, nestled in the scenic foothills of Charlottesville, Virginia. It's where the captivating story of Ariel Resupply Coffee begins. Born from the passions of U.S. Army veterans, this brand holds service and community close to its heart. After 2 decades of military service and global exploration, Mike returned home to Charlottesville, setting forth on a mission that brewed close to the hearts. Inspired by the spirit of service, they embarked on crafting the finest Charlottesville coffee with a special nod to veterans, first responders, active military, and their spouses. So, if that bio doesn't just say it all, right? Let me pull Mike up and add him to our stage. Hi.
Yay!
Hey, how's it going?
Welcome,
Good.
Mike.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me.
No, we're super excited to have you on to talk about this like topic, right? Connecting effectively, which you do so well. Do you feel you do so well before we take our coffee cup selfie?
I mean, I try. I
Yeah.
think that it's one of the things that just being who you are, regardless of being the same person on social media as the same person you are in person is important. People
Yeah.
want to know that it's really you.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love it.
I
All
think that
right.
authenticity definitely shines through. So yeah, okay,
Yeah.
let's do our coffee cup selfie and then we'll jump into questions and start talking about it. Yeah.
Right. Yes. It's there. It's there. I see it. Yes. All right, guys. On three, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that was just an imaginary photographer that snapshot that thing.
That's okay. It works.
All right. We're going to put you in the power seat here, Mike, and we're going to start with the questions.
We are. Okay. So the very first question we have is, how did you market on a budget using social media and how did you know it was going to work? Right? Because this is the first question small business owners have is like, I have no money. How am I supposed to create this great content like Mike does? So tell us a little bit about your process.
So actually, I didn't actually use any other social media platform but LinkedIn for the first, I'd say, 18 months of my business journey. And I focused on just talking. I focused on this idea of building in public. Like I wanted to build my company with the wins, the failures, all of the challenges, just be very transparent about it because I feel like people want to see that. They want to see the story. And also, like, they know that you're human, so you're going to make mistakes. So if you share that you made the mistake and you learn, people are more accepting of you as you grow your business, and they want to work with people who will work with them. So I felt like LinkedIn was the appropriate place to do it. I actually started with 12 followers and 12 connections on LinkedIn in 2019. And I only started on LinkedIn because I was getting out of the Army. I needed something to do. I think I crossed 44,000 the other day, which is great. But it's not really about how many followers I have. It's the fact that, I have so many friends that I've made on LinkedIn and other places now that it's really, I don't really pay attention to the count. It's more about how many people I'm able to interact with.
Yeah. I love that you said like, hey, this is just where I started. But it's the coming along on the journey of you building your business. People get invested in that. Like they want to know how you do. And so I love that that's how you started it, right? You're like, I'm going to just bring you along. If I slip today, you saw it. We all do, right?
So, yeah, I want to. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Mike. Go for it.
No, all I was going to say is, so, I've spent on my social media alone, I've spent almost $0 promoting my social media. And I do it because you don't need to boost your social media presence. You don't need to pay for it. You don't need to, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to, like, there's a term out there for like buying followers or like anything else that you can do to like just get attention to your page. And what you don't want to do is that, because the people there's nobody organic to your page that's actually enjoying what you're doing. It's just a number. And so when you engage with people, when you read their comments, when you engage in their comments, when you make videos about things that they say, then people become more invested in not only you and your journey, but your page, but also they become champions of your brand because they're like, hey, I know this really cool guy who's doing a lot of fun things. You need to follow him too.
I think you just said something so key when you said when you make videos about the comments that they're saying, right? Like you go the extra step of recognizing the people that are spending time on your socials, that are spending time with you, and giving them that little I'm going to call it an endorphin boost, right? Because everybody likes to be like, he just made a funny video about something I said on his page, right? Like that's a positive feeling that people get from that. I mean, like it or not, we spend a lot of time on social media, right? And so to have that kind of a positive interaction absolutely is going to help build that loyalty and that brand following that you have so very well developed over the last couple of years. Okay, so I'm curious, when you started with those 12 followers and you started posting on LinkedIn, what was like was there a moment when you had to share a failure or a mistake that you made, we'll call it that, where you were really nervous to do that because you weren't sure what it was going to do visually for your company? Or were you just like, whatever, I'm going to put it all out there?
Oh no, I've been very adamant that I'm going to share everything, good or bad, and I'm not afraid to post bad things. And I'm not afraid to post or even talk about failures that I've had with the company, because we've all had failures, and I'm not the first person to ever do this. I won't be the last. And somebody's going to come behind me that's going to have a very similar situation. And if they were to ever find my stuff, they at least would see how I charted my way through it. It might not work for them, but they would at least know that somebody else has gone through it and it's not the end of the world. I think one of the things that I always try to like look as and say to myself is it's never as good or it's never as bad as it might seem. And so you can always find your way through things. And I've met many people through my failures who've all said, I've done that. Let me tell you what I did. And then it helped pull me through the situation as well.
Got it. So it's not just you sharing, it's you getting then also the feedback from others who've gone before you. I mean, it's such a great give and take relationship.
Yeah.
Well, and the military is very, coming from the army, coming from the military background, one of the things that was always drilled into us was this term after action review. It's like after everything was done, what went well, what went bad, what would you do again? So asking for feedback or having other people like provide insights or even outside perspectives of things is something that I'm just used to at this point in my life, where I'm not afraid of it. And if somebody wants to criticize what I'm doing, as long as they're doing it from a good place of like they want to like help and not just be a critic and be one of the 10% of trolls that seem to exist on social media, then I'm good with it. I'll listen.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, I will tell you that my Army veteran loves to have like after action reviews after things that we do in our house. Like it translated from the Army and it's here. So thanks for bringing that up. Okay.
We went grocery shopping. Let's do an AAR, right?
That's right. It never goes away. I'm sorry. It will always be there.
Yep, exactly. Oh my gosh. Anna, let's move on to the next question that we have for Mike.
Yeah, I want to know how has what you've done with your marketing, with being on LinkedIn and then eventually moving to other platforms, how has this grown your small business? Like, tell us about from when you started in 2019 to where you are now, because you also weathered a pandemic during that time frame, right? Did that affect you? And like, so what's happened over the last few years for you?
Well, so social media has been a method of continuing to build brand awareness. So there's really three things that I always try to do when I do social media, which is inform, educate, or entertain, right? Like it's one of those three things. And as long as what I'm doing does one of those, then it's going to resonate with somebody, even if it's one person. If one person sees my video and it makes a difference to them, or at least inspires them, or like they learn something from me, then I've done my job, right? Yeah, can you get a viral video? Sure. But but it's not often, and you don't always think that it will be. So I don't ever plan for that. So, at the beginning of my journey, it was, hey, let's just forge my brand identity. Like, what do I want Mike, my personal brand identity to be? What do I want ARC's brand identity to be? And how can I overlap or how can I play off of each other to have fun with what I'm doing? Because at the end of the day, if I wasn't having fun with this, then I wasn't going to do it. And so, and it's grown my business because now people resonate or they react to things that I've done where they know it's from Ariel Resupply Coffee or they know it's from Mike. Like I've created a bunch of characters that I just have fun with about my time in the Army. that resonate with people even outside of the military, because they're like, oh, I've seen that person in my life, and here's a caricature of it, or here's satire of that. So that also resonates, and then they associate that with ARC, similar to the way that people associate Flo with Progressive, or Jake from State Farm, or any of those things.
Yes. And it's true, right? When
Yeah.
you did the hammer for the first time, it made me laugh. And then I showed it to Selena, and Selena's like, I know that person, right? It's my husband. It just happens to be my husband.
Right. Yes.
Who actually does
yeah.
this. Like he
Yes.
does this, right? Which
Yeah.
is that he puts the hammer hand down on me
Yeah.
every once in a while.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't be doing that at me.
Yeah. No. Can I ask you, Mike, like, when did you make the jump to include the other social media platforms? Like, I know you had just started on LinkedIn, but like, when did you decide you were ready to move over to Instagram and TikTok and YouTube? Like, what prompted that decision for you?
Well, so I moved over to Instagram and Facebook when I figured out how I could, and when I had all of the business profile stuff set up to make them legit business entities for like e-commerce and for the commerce side, so that I could ultimately sell through those two platforms, right? Because without, when you first start a business, most of these places don't care about you, because they're like, well, you're brand new, we don't know if you're real, so you want to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row with, the business stuff like EINs, your documentation, your organizational docs, your tax structures, all of that, so that when you do go to these places and you're saying, hey, I want to create a page, they don't like stare at you like you're trying to scam anybody, right? Like it's legit. And so I waited on those until I had those things. And then I realized that, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, well, Facebook and Instagram by itself is a massive network that is very good, but has a different audience set than TikTok has an audience set. So you have to kind of understand what the demographics and what the audience that you're attempting to, I would say, capture attention from, is on each platform. And so, I started that probably halfway. Well, maybe about. I really put effort into both of those. Well, all three of those platforms about a year ago, and they've grown at various rates, and some have grown faster than others. But it's now part of what I do, really on a daily basis.
Would you say that this marketing effort, it feels like a also full-time job, other than owning your coffee? You know what I mean? Like business, like we all know in the marketing and digital marketing world, right, Rand? Like this is a lot of work. But are you ever like, oh man, I just can't do the hammer anymore. I can't do the hammer today. I can't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't find it to be a lot of work. I'm probably an anomaly. I actually really enjoy what I do. It's easy for, and because of like the repetitions that I've done and how I post, I started with, okay, I'm going to make myself post one time a day on LinkedIn. And then that was what I started with. And now, like, on Instagram, I can rattle off 10 to 20 videos in about 30 minutes. And then what I do is I just schedule them out, or I'll keep them on my phone, and then I'll rotate them through. I'll do it in like maybe 10 days or 20 days worth of videos. And then if there's days that I'm like, you know what, I just don't feel like do anything, I'll go back 4 months and find a video that did really well and repost it. So I'm always repurposing content that I've done. So stuff that does really well on LinkedIn will then make it to my Instagram. Stuff that does really well on Instagram will go to LinkedIn again. Like, so after a while, you have such a catalog of content that you don't really have to, like, if you have a down day, you're like, I don't feel like doing anything today. You probably have 30 or 40 pieces of content that you've never done, or that you've never posted somewhere, that you can then migrate to something else. Or you can do what I do, which is just say, I don't feel like doing anything today, and then post that. Be like, today stinks. Like, I don't want to do any of this. And people will resonate with that too. It works. So, I mean, sometimes you don't want to be a content creator, but sometimes, you want people to recognize what you're doing, and everybody's human. So just be human.
I love
That's
that
great
authenticity
advice.
so much, right, Selena?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I want to go on tomorrow and be like, I don't want to post today. and that's my post. I'm gonna
Right.
the next day I actually have stuff scheduled out over the next few days, but next week when I'm like crazy and it's 8 o'clock p.m. and I'm like, I've got to create content for tomorrow. I'm going to create a piece like when I'm in that moment that just says it's 8 o'clock p.m. and this is my content piece for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I just want you to know that I'm thinking about you, but this is all I got.
Right.
This is all
Yeah. Right. And I, you know what, Mike, I hear you saying like, hey, don't overthink it, right? Like just kind of naturally like feel what, could be content. And it doesn't always have to be glitzy glamour, lipstick perfect, like ready to go out, So I think I love that advice the most. So from what I'm hearing you say.
Well, and I do, so
And
like my hammer videos, well, the hammer videos that I do, like I'll go throughout the day and then I'll get like an inspiration from something I see or something I've read. And I'll be like, oh, I'm doing that right now. And I will literally crank it out in 3 minutes.
Exactly. Be open to the inspiration around you so that, you never know when it hits, right? Oh my gosh.
That's right.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So when you're doing those 10, what spurs your ideas? Like, are you just a creative soul? And so you see something and it spurs a video, or has this been a process? Like when I'm hearing you say, in 2019, when you started, was it as easy then as it is for you now to put out 10 to 20 pieces of content? Or was it a process of learning, like, this is where I excel, this is what I feel good about, and then naturally like developing that?
Well, I think, at the very beginning, I think everybody deals with this term called imposter syndrome, where you feel like, what am I doing? Like who's going to watch my stuff? Like, why, like, is this even what I really want to do? And you just got to kind of like separate yourself from that and say, I don't really care what that person thinks. I'm going to do this anyway. And so, at the beginning, I read a lot of experts and I read a lot of things about how you're supposed to do stuff. And it's like, hey, you need to post at 7:58 every morning at this time, and you need to do this, and you do that. And I did that for maybe a month, and I was like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever done, because nobody is going to believe me that I am always posting at 7:58 without understanding that that's a scheduled thing. So now, and so, because I've done so many repetitions and because I will fire things off on a whim, like I've learned how to structure my thoughts in a way that makes sense on LinkedIn all the time, so that it's very easy for me to be able to crank something out. Like I could crank something out after this and it would seem very organic and very natural and it would work. And if it gets 3 views, I don't care, because it was something that I wanted to say and it makes sense to me. Now, when it comes to like Instagram and those views, I'm kind of a reactive person. I like finding videos, or I like finding things that speak to me, and then I overlay my military experience on it, or I overlay my small business experience on it and crack a joke. I mean, that's, humor is like the one way I think people connect very heavily. And so that's something that I think, as long as you're not being offensive, you can have a lot of fun, and there's a wide range of humor that you can do.
Mentioning that your strawberry one was my favorite. Well, was my favorite, and one of actually the other girls that we just like. I think it was you just with that. With the whole thing was funny.
The knife.
Yeah.
It's the knife, right?
Yeah,
It's that he's got like a tactical knife that he's slicing the top of the straw.
I almost cut my finger. I actually almost cut my
Really?
finger doing that, because I wasn't paying attention to my hand. I was paying attention to the camera.
Yeah.
And when I went like this, I felt the knife go right across my finger.
No.
I was like, that was close. That was close. That was fun.
You guys, you just have a behind the scenes. Yeah, behind the scenes from Mike on how that strawberry video could have gone so wrong,
That's
but
right.
I'm sure you would have made the ride to the hospital content too. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, or I probably would have kept going just with a,
yeah.
open finger, or whatever.
Can I ask you, does your spouse ever say like, hey, can we just stop? Can like there be no content creating like right now? Like, can this just be a no content moment?
Well, yeah, there are times for that. I mean, she personally hates the hammer, not because of who the hammer is. She hates the face filter. She doesn't like the filter that makes me look like a square jaw. She doesn't like any of that. But but there are times when even she's like that. I've, we've gone back and forth, and I've done a good job of fencing specific periods of time through the day where I am not on my phone or I'm not doing that. But as a small business owner, and as like a one person show, because I'm doing almost all of this myself. My wife is helping with a lot of the operational stuff now that I've opened a brick and mortar store. But there is, I'm still getting kind of pulled in that direction, but I do my best to put it away, spend time and take a break from it, because it'll always be there. Work will always be there. So whether I do it now or I do it 2 hours from now is not a big deal.
I think that is such good advice, right? Like, that's such a good business practice. I'm just inspired by how you're like, where I'd be like, wow, he's really got it together. Do people say that about you, right?
Mike said, thank you. My wife might say differently, but.
Well, I would hope that people would think I have it together. The way I describe small business ownership is the same way I described being a major my last 2 years in the Army, which is you're riding a bicycle, the bicycle is on fire, everything is on fire, and you're in hell, right? Like, that's really what it's like. And it's fun because you're trying to do everything all at once, but something is always on fire. And what I've realized after 2.5 years, almost 3 years of doing this, is that I can only do what I can do during the day that I have and the time that I have. And so I'm going to prioritize what matters. And there's always going to be things that tomorrow I'll be like, man, I wish I'd done that yesterday. But I really have started letting that go. It's like, unless it's like super critical, I'm like, I'm human. I made a mistake. It didn't happen yesterday. So I'm going to do it today. And then I'm going to keep driving on. And many of my customers understand that. And there's been times where I've completely missed an order that I should have shipped. And I just tell the customer, hey man, I missed it. I'm sorry this happened. And they're understanding, and I send it on its way and add a few things and, make up for it. But, it's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Thank you for saying that too, because I think sometimes people appreciate the honesty over a BS, like, oh man, like something happened over here. You know what I mean? Like, they can always sense the BS right when you're trying to apologize. So I think being honest can even be better than the apology than the BS answer that you could kind of muster up,
That's right.
And I do want to say, I laugh about the fire on the bike analogy. Like, I've been in business now like 7.5 years, and my bike has just gotten bigger. The fire's gotten bigger, but I've managed it. Like, I think I have like one of those fire suits on, because I realize now, like, hey, the fire's not going anywhere, right, Mike? Like,
that's right.
Here to stay.
Well, and that's why I said you got it all together, right? Because sometimes we feel like we're riding a bike that's on fire, that's giant, and we're not in a fire suit. And like, I'm just listening to your answers, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, you're just calm about it, and you're just like, this is how it is, this is what I do, and then we move on. And I love that attitude, right? I think it's just refreshing, because I don't always feel that way, right? Sometimes I want to be like, and grab my hair and pull at it and be like, I'm on fire. But then in my head, I think if Mike felt like that, I feel like you would make a content piece about it, and then it would go viral, and it would be a really good move for you. So ultimately,
well, I had a friend of mine. I had a friend of mine tell me that everything is content. And while I don't necessarily agree with that aspect of it, because there are some things that I take and I will not put as content just because of my own personal beliefs on things. I do think that there is ways to make things, to take bad situations or take stressful situations and then make it funny or make it real. Like, I think people want to know that you're not a robot behind the scenes, or you're not just, trying to be the class clown all the time. Like, there are times when you got to like be like, hey, this really stank, or hey, we're really doing something serious. We want to talk about what we're doing. And people want to see that, and it's important. And, again, as long as you're coming from a good place, it'll resonate with the right audience.
Hey Mike, I hope that you make a new character that's a robot answering customer complaints that come in, because I think that would be so genius. Just
Well, so I don't know if you've seen any of the characters that I've done. So I have Chris, who's a former Navy SEAL. Former, I use quotes because he's not really, but so I have Chris. I have the Hammer, who's a cavalry colonel. I just introduced Nigel, who comes from from the Air Force. So my next one's in the queue is I'm still kind of figuring out what I want to do for the Marine Corps. So that may be the customer complaint one. We'll see. And then I got the Coast Guard coming up, and then I got to figure out somebody for the Space Force. So my goal is to represent all branches from characters, and then we'll see where it goes.
I love that.
I feel like the way that you military guys joke about the Space Force guys, like I hope that character flips their hair a lot. Like, you know, when they're talking, like the way you men are, you know, as service members joke about Space Force. I don't, you know, hope they flip their hair.
Well,
That's
we'll
the
see.
vibe I get.
We'll see.
Yeah. Anna, let's ask Mike our last question because I think it's important.
I know it is. Yeah, we're at our 30-minute mark, which means we have to start to close down the show, right? But we do want to say, Mike, if there was one tip that you would give small business owners, knowing what you know now, what would you say to them about social media, connecting with your audience, like all the things we've been talking about today?
I would say do it yesterday. I would say that there's nothing that you're going to figure out to be perfect that can't be generated and then iterated upon 50 million times until you get it to where you want it to be, right? You don't put it out. If you don't like it, great, let it sit there, see what it does. You can always delete it later, right? But then if that didn't work, take the same piece of content and do it again in a different way, and then do it again 5 different ways and see which one actually works. And if one of them doesn't, if they all don't work, well, that doesn't mean that you didn't do anything good. It just means that maybe that didn't resonate for whatever reason, right? And then, but don't wait for perfect. Like I have this philosophy that, 80% is good enough. If I can get to 80%, I'm going to figure out the rest of the 20% along the way and brute force my way through it. So like, I think a lot of people get hung up on, well, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if it's going to go viral. I don't know. I want it to go viral, but I don't. Look, if you have a brand new account, you have 3 followers, you're not going to go viral. Like, don't worry about that. That's not what you want to do. Your goal is, how do I get 5 followers? How do I get 10 followers? Not how do I go get rich overnight? Like, that's not the idea. Like, it took me, it's 5 years from now, and I just hit 44,000 followers on LinkedIn, starting from 12. So you got to go through those things as you go along.
Thank you. I think that's like an awesome tip to share, because I think a lot of us get stuck. I feel like I've said this word on so many, is that paralysis of being perfect. And so it makes us pause when we don't need to,
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. You made an intro into your the episode. But no, thank you for sharing that. I think that's like amazing. And then let's talk about, I think we're going to, Anna, unless you had a question, I want to share our toolkit for today's show.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pop that up. So here's what we feel, right? One, we love our military community as military spouses. And I think it's very important to support each other, especially when, just everything about it is fantastic. And so we want to make sure we are sharing Mike's business. And we're going to have you, Mike, tell everybody, hey, where do they go? What do you recommend their first buy should be?
Well, so you can go to arielresupplycoffee.com. And honestly, so I give 10% off to all first-time customers, military and active military veterans, first responders, teachers, law enforcement can all do GovX validation. They automatically get 10%. But you can find it there. And so, like, it really depends on what you like. The best-selling coffee I have is Firewatch, which is my medium roast. But if you're a flavored coffee person, then you will love what my daughter does, because she draws all the labels for me. So I have Freedom Kitty, which is chocolate cherry amaretto, and I have a Spring Kitty coffee because she loves cats. So she's a big cat person. And that one is salted caramel mocha. And so if you find those two, I will tell you, I'm a black coffee drinker. I love all of this stuff black, but if you like cream or you like a little milk, you like a little sugar in your coffee, the flavored coffees are amazing.
Okay, wait, does your flavored coffees come in the K-cup version as well?
Yes.
Because I know you sell K-Cups, but okay. Awesome. Those sound amazing.
That's right.
Those sound amazing.
They do. And I love that you brought your daughter into your business. Can I just throw that out there? That's like that's a big, one of those big heart moments for me where I love that you included her and her drawings. I can't wait to see the drawings on the front of the bag, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And it was important to include her because, as military families, we're always moving around. We're always doing different things. And I wanted her, part of doing this is seeing so that I can show her how to do whatever she wants to do in life. So,
yeah. Can I ask, this is a total secondary, but like, is there a legacy here that you would like to build this business to hand over to her? Like, is that like something that's on the table for you in this business?
Well, potentially, but really it's I want her to do whatever she wants to do. And I want her to see that whatever she puts her mind to, she can accomplish. And if that's taking this on, great. If it's not, that's okay too.
Okay. Yeah. I love that.
I know. So we will drop the links. Yeah. We're going to drop all the links in the blog for today at AnnaandSelena.com/blog, and it will be in all of our descriptions. But Mike, tell everyone where we've kind of talked about where they can find you, but tell us where they can best find you depending on what they want from you, right? Like that's the question.
Well, sure. So if you want to buy coffee, it's arielresupplycoffee.com, or you can go on Amazon, and I ship everything from Amazon as well. And then if you're local here in the Charlottesville area, I'm actually in Kroger. So you can go to Kroger and you can buy my coffee, or you can stop by my store, which you can find on Google Maps. So if you come through the Central Virginia area, find me there. The best way to reach me personally is through my LinkedIn, or just email, which is info@arielresupplycoffee.com.
Yeah. LinkedIn's where I stalked him to get him on the show, by the way.
Yeah. Mike, I wish we were on ourselves because we were like, hey, let's ask and see if Mike will say yes. And I was like, you think he will? Like, I mean, that's a lot of people. What if a lot of people send a message all the time? And it was like within an hour, maybe less. Yeah, sure. Would love to. And we were like, so
there you go.
Yeah. Thank you so much for saying yes. Like, that's like such
a
big
of course.
deal. So, Mike, thank you so much for being on the show. And this is where Anna kind of cuts me off because I tend to babble. So I put Oscar music on for us so we can end the show appropriately.
Yes. Mike, thank you so much for being our guest on the show. I cannot wait to taste one of your kitty coffees because those are definitely my style. I hope everyone here has enjoyed our conversation today about connecting with audience and the different ways and the fun ways that you can take your social media kind of to that next level. Go and buy some coffee from Mike. And as always, follow us on any of the Anna and Selena platforms. And you can always watch this show and all the others on any of your favorite podcast platforms. So we look forward to seeing you at the next 15-ish minute coffee chats. Thank you.